I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from the book just to give you an idea of the content of the book. The book was written by a German in the early half, or rather early third of the 20th century, in the 1900s, in that narrow period between the First World War and the Second World War, which was a time when the world was in major upheaval. The book was originally written in German and has been translated to English and many other languages. I'm going to read you just some brief excerpts, okay? The book comes in 3 volumes. So like I said, it's not something you just read through like a novel, but it is something that you read chapter by chapter. It becomes like a map that helps you navigate your path through the universe, through life, because your life, your existence is really what it's all about. When when you were born here, you were born by yourself. All those friends, all those relatives that you love or dislike, that you get along with or don't get along with, when you leave this place, you're going to leave by yourself. They're not coming with you. So it's in your best interest to focus only on yourself and focus on how you can make yourself a better human being and make your path through your own existence more truthful and more imbued with light. Okay, so the first excerpt I'm going to read is from the 2nd volume, and the title is The Inner Voice. The Inner Voice. And this is not the entire chapter. This is just a short excerpt from the chapter, okay? The so-called inner voice, the spiritual part of the human being to which he can listen, is the intuitive sense. It is not without reason that people say the first impression is always right. As all expressions and proverbs harbor profound truths, so also here. By the word impression is meant intuitive sense. For example, what a human being intuitively senses at a first meeting with a stranger can either be a kind of warning to be careful, which may even go so far as absolute repugnance, or something pleasant mounting to a feeling of complete affinity. In some cases, it may also be indifference. If now, in the course of conversation or further intercourse, this expression is brushed aside or entirely effaced through the judgment of the intellect, so that the thought arises that the original intuition was wrong, it almost invariably turns out at the end of such an acquaintance that the very first intuition was the right one. And this often occurs to the bitter suffering of those who allowed their intellect to mislead them through the deceptive nature of the other person. The intuitive sense, which is not bound to space and time, but is connected with its same kind, with the spiritual, immediately recognized the true nature of the other person and did not allow itself to be deceived by the cleverness of the intellect. It is absolutely impossible for the intuitive sense to err. Whenever a human being is led astray, there are two reasons for his errors: either the intellect or the feeling. How often does one hear it said, "In this matter or that matter, I allowed myself to be guided by my feelings and got into trouble"? One should only rely on one's intellect. Such persons have mistaken their feelings for their inner voice. They praise their intellect and have no idea that it is just the intellect which played such an important part in their feelings. Therefore, be on your guard. Feeling is not intuitive sense. And then it goes on. But the majority of people have closed themselves to this intuition by pushing their feelings in front of it like a dense veil or wall. Then they mistake the feeling for the inner voice, and as a result, they experience many disappointments. This prompts them to rely even more on their intellect, never suspecting that it was just through the cooperation of the intellect that they could be deceived. And we know that your intellect is housed in your brain. It is the function of your brain. This chapter goes on to say, it would create a false idea to say that feeling suppresses the pure intuitive sense, for nothing is more powerful than the intuition. It is the human being's highest power and can never be suppressed or prejudiced by anything. It is more correct to say that the human being makes himself incapable of recognizing his intuition. If the human being fails to do so, it is always through his own fault, never because of the strength or weakness of his specific gifts. For just the fundamental gift, the actual power, the strongest part of the human being, which is the bearer of all life and is immortal, is given to all human beings alike. In this respect, no one has an advantage over another. All differences are due only to the way in which it is used. Neither can this fundamental gift, the immortal spark, ever be dimmed or tarnished. It remains pure even amid the greatest filth. You only need to tear away the veil which you have wrapped around you through the voluntary limitation to which you have subjected your ability to intuitively sense. Then, without any transition whatsoever, your intuitive sense will flare up again as pure and clear as it was in the beginning, unfolding itself anew, fresh and strong, to unite with the spiritual. Rejoice that this treasure lies inviolable within you. It is of no importance whether you are esteemed by your neighbors or not. every bit of dirt that has gathered like a dam around this spirit spark can be cast aside through honest goodwill. If you have achieved this and again liberated the treasure of your intuitive sense, you are worth just as much as one who never buried it. But this first step must and can only be taken by the individual himself. Otherwise, he cannot be helped. Therefore, advance bravely. With an earnest volition, every path will finally lead to the goal. I will read a second excerpt. And this one is also from the second volume. And the title of this chapter is Responsibility. And this excerpt is from the middle of the chapter. There is only one creator, one God, and therefore only one power, which streams through all that exists, animating and furthering it. This pure creative power of God flows continually through the whole creation, lies in it, and is inseparable from it. This power is to be found everywhere, in the air, in every drop of water, in the growing rock, in the struggling plant, in the animal, and naturally also in the human being. There is nothing where it would not be found. And just as it flows through everything, so it also streams unceasingly through the human being. Now, the human being is so constituted that he resembles a lens, just as a lens collects the sun's rays streaming through it and passes them on in concentrated form, so that the heat-giving rays, when united on one spot, singe and set it on fire. So the human being, by virtue of his specific nature, collects through his intuitive sense the power of creation streaming through him and passes it on in concentrated form through his thoughts. According to the nature of this intuitive sensing and the thoughts connected with it, he thus guides the self-acting creative power of God to good or evil effect. And that is the responsibility which he must bear. In this also lies his free will. You who often seek so strenuously to find the right way, why do you make it so hard for yourselves? In all simplicity, picture to yourselves how the pure power of the Creator flows through you, and how you guide it with your thoughts in a good or an evil direction. There, you have it all, without trouble and without racking your brain. Consider that it lies with your simple intuitive sensing and thinking whether this mighty power will evoke good or evil. What a furthering or destructive power is thus given to you. Realize in pure joy that through your simple, good-willing, intuitive sensing and thinking, you are able without effort to guide the one mighty power of creation. The power will then take effect exactly according to the nature of your intuitive sensing and your thoughts. It works by itself. You need only guide it. This takes place in all simplicity. No college education is required for this. Not even reading and writing. It is given to each of you in the same degree. In this, no difference exists. Just as a child playing with a switch can turn on an electric current that produces tremendous effects, so is it given to you through your simple thoughts to guide divine power. Evil is brought about with the same pure divine power as good. It is the kind of use made with this uniform power of God, which is left to the free choice of each one that bears within it the responsibility which no one can escape. Therefore, I call out to every seeker, keep the hearth of your thoughts pure. By doing so, you will bring peace and be happy. Since there is only this one power of God, the mystery of why in every serious final struggle, darkness must retreat before the light is also cleared up. If you guide the power of God to the good, it remains undimmed in its original purity and thereby develops a much greater force. Whereas with dimming, it becomes dimmed into the impure and a weakening occurs simultaneously. Thus, it is the purity of the power which in any final struggle will always work effectively and be decisive. Everyone feels to the very fingertips what is good and what is evil without a word said. To brood over it would only cause confusion. Brooding is a waste of power. It is like a swamp which paralyzes and suffocates all within its reach. But brisk cheerfulness tears apart the spell of brooding. You need not be sad and depressed. At any moment, you can set out on your way to the height and make good the past, whatever it may be. Do nothing more than think of the process of the pure power of God, always streaming upon you and through you. Then you yourselves will shrink from guiding this purity into the unclean channels of evil and untrue thoughts, because without any effort, you can equally attain to what is highest and noblest. You only need to guide it. The power then works on by itself in the direction you desire. Thus, you have happiness or unhappiness in your own hand. As you wish it, so will it happen to you. One who wants to read this book in the light of truth, you can buy it. You can buy it as you can buy it in print. You can buy it as audiobook. You can buy it as MP3. You know, you can get it on iTunes. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it from the publisher. So the publisher's website is grailmessage.com. And this book is also called The Grail Message. For anybody who is beginning to read the book, my suggestion is to go at it slowly. and read it chronologically. Don't jump around in the book, because he's trying to guide you into a knowledge. He's trying to build up your understanding gradually from the very foundation. And what you will find often is that when you first start reading the first volume, it shatters almost everything that you always thought, believed, imagined. And that is very hard for most of us. I know when I first started reading it, it was very hard for me. But one of the first things that happens for a person once they are ready to confront the truth is that they become humble. They become willing to accept the truth, and the truth being that something that is contrary to what they have always held dear. And it takes a certain deal of self-conquest to accept that what you think or what you thought was not true. And this is what this book does. It forces you to that place. Once you're able to do that, then it gives you tools you need to reconstruct a worldview that is in harmony with the truth. And as you're reading the book, if you're reading it, or if you're listening to it on audiobook, or if you're listening to it on MP3, and you come across something that you're having difficulty with, put the book down, go about your life. Observe what's happening in your life every day, and you will almost invariably find that whatever it is you're experiencing will bring the subject that you are struggling with to the fore. Then go back, pick up the book and read that chapter again. And it will become clearer to you. Don't be in a hurry. Rome wasn't built in a day, and your existence is more than just the 70 years or the 90 years that you spend in this one lifetime. Your existence goes far beyond that.
Could you describe the role of compassion and love in all of this?
Our understanding of love and compassion is also distorted. Genuine love is genuine truth. You know, to express love, we have to be true. In fact, when somebody says to you, you know, do you love me? Will you be true to me? We've come to imagine that that expression means, will you be faithful to me? You know, will you not run off with somebody else? But, you know, words have meaning, and their meaning is very clear and cannot be distorted and should not be distorted. So when we are true, we express love. When we express love, we cannot express love unless we are true. And when we are untrue or untruthful in the misguided belief that we're showing love, we are not. Truth, love are one and the same. They're inseparable. And you know, when it comes to compassion, compassion is simply putting yourself in the other person's shoes, or doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's what Jesus tried to teach us. In the same way, Jesus said to us, let your words be no or yes. Yes and no. anything more than that cometh of evil. Because if you're genuinely truthful, your communications will become a lot leaner. Well, I thank you all for attending. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that for each one of you, something will move you to order this book or pick it up if you already have ordered it, and search inside it. As it says in this last excerpt that we read, it's entirely up to the individual. You must make the move. You must take the action, and nobody can do it for you. So thank you all.